So you're thinking of moving to Provo, Utah or the surrounding areas? Well, then this channel's for you. In this particular video, I'll be covering the city of Saratoga Springs, which is about 35 minutes to the northwest of Provo. Hi, I'm Scott Walters with Best USA Realty, and I've been a Utah County native basically my entire life. So I grew up in and around the Provo area, and I love talking about and sharing with others how wonderful it is to live in Utah Valley, to live in Provo and all the surrounding cities. So just a little bit of, well, before I get into that, in this video I'm going to be talking about at least 5 pros and 5 cons of what it's like to live in Saratoga Springs. And of course, if you listen to the end, I'll throw in a couple bonus pros about why it's so great to live in Saratoga Springs. So with that, let's talk about Saratoga Springs, Utah. If you're finding these videos helpful on what it's like to live in Provo, Utah and all the surrounding cities, then I want you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click on that notification bell so that you get notified every time I drop another video about what it's like living in Provo, Utah and the surrounding areas. Again, I'm Scott Walters, Best USA Realty. Lived in this valley most of my entire life. And I love sharing with everybody what it's like living here in Provo, Utah and all the surrounding areas. I'm covering videos from all the cities from Lehigh to the north, to Vineyard in the middle, to Santaquin clear down on the south, and every city in between. I'm using my years of experience to bring these cities to life for you. And you know, if you're interested in this area, reach out to me. I love when people reach out to me, and I love to help you out. And you know, I'm just here to serve you. If you want to know any more about any of these cities or communities or any particular neighborhoods, I'd love to get you some information. Reach out to me via email, my phone number. We can put together a Zoom call, whatever you need, so I can serve you and take care of your real estate needs. So with that, let's get talking about Saratoga Springs, Utah. My pro number 1 is Saratoga Springs is new and shiny. In other words, it was just incorporated in, I wrote it down, 1997. So it hasn't even been around all that long. In fact, in the year 2000, the population of Saratoga Springs was 1,003 people. Now in 2022, it sits at just a little over 44,000 people. I remember going out there as a new licensed real estate agent in the late 90s and showing a few homes that they had built out there. And so when you go out to Saratoga Springs, it's not going to be like some of the other cities. It won't be like Provo or Lehigh or Spanish Fork or those cities like that that have been around a long time and have the old downtown, older home areas. You don't see that in Saratoga Springs at all. Everything's basically 25 years, 26, 27 years old, and that's about the oldest you're going to find out there. Almost everything is new, and there is just a ton of building going on out there. So everything's brand new. If you want a brand new home, that's one of the great places to go. That's one of the perks and benefits of Saratoga Springs, is just how new and shiny everything is. It started off, there was, back in the late 1800s, there's a hot spring out there, and so they had created a resort out there in the late 1800s. But then by the early 90s, some of the landowners that were still around in that area wanted to, you know, explored the option of becoming a city, and they did, and started building a community around that old resort. And it's a pretty cool community. You know, they got a clubhouse, pool, their own private dock to Utah Lake. See, Saratoga Springs is interesting too. It's like 21 square miles roughly, but it's a very long and narrow city. It basically goes from Utah Lake on its east side to the foothills of Lake Mountain on its west side, and I'm guessing from the lake to West Mountains maybe 2 miles, 3 miles. It's not very far. And then it goes from Pelican Point on the south all the way up to Camp Williams on the north. The main road that runs through Saratoga Springs is Redwood Road, and that, if you stay on that going south, it'll come out down near Alberta and Goshen, and you can hook onto the I-15 south of, you know, by Santaquin. If you go north on that, then you're just a few minutes and you'll be into the Salt Lake Valley. So that's the main road running through there. But I'd say, you know, that's basically your pro number 1, is it's just new. And when I was out there getting a video for this video, I just saw all kinds of construction everywhere, new homes coming up all over the place. So there's a lot of great options for beautiful new homes in that area. All right, so my con number one is because Saratoga Springs is on the west side of the lake, it's a little bit drier there than it is even on the east side, over right up next to the Wasatch Range where the rest of the Utah County cities lie. So all of Utah County is fairly dry, but it's definitely more green on the east side, right up against the mountains. I mean, that's where you have all the rivers and streams that come out of the mountains that feed Utah Lake are coming from. So it's definitely greener there. Once you get out to the west side of the lake, then it's pretty dry out there. It's pretty deserty looking terrain. Of course, where the city is now, where a lot of those new neighborhoods have been put in the last 25 years, and there's a lot of trees and growth of that nature, so it's looking a little greener there. But once you get out of the city itself, it's a very dry looking climate. I remember last year I went out to visit a relative that lived in that area, actually in Eagle Mountain, which is just right a few minutes from Saratoga Springs. It was pouring rain where I live in Salem. By the time we got out there, the hour drive to Eagle Mountain, the Saratoga Springs area, there was no rain at all. And I was talking to my cousin. She's like, that's very typical for them to just not get anywhere near the amount of rain that we get on the east side of Utah Lake. Although I have, on 2 occasions, I've been in some pretty big snow blizzards in that Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain area. So they still get some moisture, just not as much as the east side. So pro number 2 for me is Utah Lake, the proximity to Utah Lake. Saratoga Springs sits right on the western, well, it's kind of the northwestern bank of Utah Lake. So you are really close to a very large freshwater lake. Utah Lake is right smack dab in the middle of Utah Valley. And so on the east side, you have the Wasatch Mountain Range, and that's where you have Provo, Orem, and that area. And then you've got all of Utah Lake that basically runs from almost the northern end of Utah Valley all the way down to the southern end of Utah Valley. So it's a very, very large freshwater lake. There's quite a few marinas, boat ramps all around the lake. And so one of the benefits to Utah Lake for Saratoga Springs is they've got a boat ramp right there. But it is for those members that are part of that association around the old resort. I was reading on the old resort. It said it lasted from the 1860s all the way to 1984, and then of course it was in the 1990s that they began exploring whether to turn it into a city, and of course they have. Now it's a large city. Some of the fun things that you can do on Utah Lake, of course you can boat, you can water ski, jet ski. I see people doing that, I think it's called kite surfing, where they're out there on the water with a board and they've got a kite that's blowing them around. So I see a lot of that. There's good fishing for walleye, white bass. There's carp in there, a lot of carp. They were introduced a long time ago, and they've kind of overrun the whole entire lake, so it's not exciting to catch those in my opinion. But catfish, you can catch very large catfish. I like to fish for those right around Bird Island. Bird Island's several miles south of Saratoga Springs. You actually usually get to Bird Island from more down by the Spanish Fork side of the lake. But anyway, so there's just a lot of activities you can do on the lake and hang out. Like I say, boat, fish. One of the bad things though is in the summer it's been getting pretty hot, and they've had some issues with some algal blooms in some of the parts of the lake, which make it not the most healthy to swim in. So usually steer clear of those areas. But anyway, other than that, it's a very positive thing. It's a beautiful lake. The views looking across the lake are stunning, looking across towards Lone Peak and Cascade Mountain and Mount Loafer. It's just a really stunning view. Anyway, there's your pro number 2, the proximity to Utah Lake. Con number 2 for me is Saratoga Springs is probably one of the furthest cities away from Provo compared to the other cities in the Utah Valley area. It's about 38 minutes from Provo to Saratoga Springs. So, I mean, it's not a terrible drive, but it's just a little bit further than the other cities that are right along that Wasatch Front and right along the I-15 corridor. It's also only about 47 minutes away from downtown Salt Lake. It's even less than that to the Salt Lake Valley, but to get from Saratoga Springs to downtown Salt Lake, if you happen to work there or wanted to go to, say, a jazz game or something downtown Salt Lake, you're only 47 minutes away. So as far as that goes, I mean, that's definitely a pro, but as far as if you want to be close to Provo, Orem area, you're a little bit further out compared to other cities in Utah Valley. Pro number 3 has got to be all the shopping. So like I was telling you in the earlier part of this video, that Saratoga Springs has only been around since like 1996, and clear back when they first started that first development, there was like zero shopping in all of Saratoga Springs. The closest shopping was Lehigh. Now, because of that growth, right along the Redwood Road corridor, going basically from Pioneer Crossing all the way up to the 2100 North exit, you're going to see quite a few shopping opportunities. In fact, they just built a brand new Costco. That's right there. The Smith's grocery store is probably the longest grocery store that's been there. They actually had the first store. They're not even in that now. They've built a little further to the south, and on the other side of Redwood Road, they've built a much larger and newer Smith's grocery store. There's a large Fat Cat store there. That's it's a bowling alley, just kind of an entertainment center. And then, of course, there's all the other different type of restaurants you can think of. A lot of the fast food restaurants are there. A lot of the sub chains, Jersey Mike's, Subway, just all those different types of chains are there. Of course, your Costa Vitas and Cafe Rios are out that way as well. There's also Seven Brothers hamburger shop. They originated out of the Oahu area. Very delicious hamburgers that you can get right there. There's Blaze Pizza, I think Mod Pizza. I could have those off, but I mean, there's just so many different shops that you can have there. There's a Walmart, a big Walmart that's been there for quite a while. There's also a Vasa gym if you want to work out. And you know, when I'm driving around doing all these videos, my car gets super dirty. One of the cool things I've been noticing in pretty much every Utah County community that I've been in, and Saratoga Springs included, is there's a quick quack car wash. They're like on every corner, it seems like. And so it's nice to have those right there where you can go get your car clean and make it look nice and new again. So anyway, just a little perk to a lot of the cities, and like I say, to Saratoga included, there's a nice quick quack car wash. All the different mobile phone stores are out that way for you to go to. There's plenty of local dentist shops and doctor's offices in the area as well, as long as car parts stores. So just lots and lots of different opportunities for shopping. And all those stores are just really, really, really new. Like most of those stores have come in within the last 15 years. So anyway, that's your bonus number 3 is all the shopping. So my con number 3 has got to be the construction. So I talked about all the new stores. I guess that in a way, although it's a pro to have all that new stuff, is that, you know, they've got construction going on everywhere. They're building new stores and buildings all over the place. That goes along with also the new construction on all the houses. So they're building everywhere. So just be prepared for that. If you're going to be in Saratoga Springs driving around, just know you're going to be driving through construction zones, either for commercial buildings, you know, like new restaurants and new stores. You're going to be driving through those areas, but also driving between all the different neighborhoods. You're going to be going through a lot of different construction zones on all the new housing that's being built out that way. So not a huge con, but definitely something to be aware of when you're in the area. There's a lot of construction. Pro number 4 is the fact that you're on the west side of the lake. You are that much closer to the West Desert. That's definitely a pro for a lot of people. A lot of people love to go camping out in the West Desert of Utah. They love to go out. You can go out searching for pine nuts and the pine cone trees that are out that way, the pinyon pines that have the pine cones. And so that a lot of people love doing that. And then there are just a ton of trails out there. A lot of people around here have side-by-sides or four-wheelers, and they love just going out and exploring all of the different trails that they can out that way. And plus, when you get out there, oftentimes you can come across herds of antelope. There are even wild mustangs out in that area. If you're willing to go drive out on those roads, you can find those. And of course, there's a lot of primitive camping out there too. If you want to go out in the West Desert and camp, then the West Desert is you're just really close to those opportunities that a lot of people enjoy, just recreating out in the West Desert area. A lot of people used to go shoot their guns out that way, but seems like they've kind of put a moratorium on all that just because some of the wildfires have started from people going out here and shooting irresponsibly. So just make sure if you're going to go out there to recreate and do that, make sure that it's opened and not closed. Generally, they close it during the summer in those public lands areas so that there's not the risk of starting a fire, and then it's open again to target shoot during the wintertime. But just make sure you check those regulations, make sure you're good that way. But anyway, the West Desert's right there, right next to Saratoga Springs, lots of recreation. So con number 4 is walkability. Saratoga Springs is not a walkable town. Like I said, it's a long and narrow town. I think it's like 11 miles long. I'm guessing maybe 2 miles wide, maybe more than that, but it's not very wide. And there's still a lot of open space. I mean, there's tons of building everywhere, But sometimes you can go, there's like, half-mile fields in between one subdivision to the next. And so it's not very walkable. You're not going to be walking to the grocery store to do your grocery shopping or to go to your dentist or your doctor. You're going to need to have a car. And you're not super close to a tracks line. You got to go into Lehigh to get to the UTA tracks line, and that's going to be probably 15 to 18 minutes, depending on traffic, to get over to the tracks line and get to a lot more of the bus routes to get you over down to Provo or up to Salt Lake. So that is my con number 4, is walkability. It's not a walkable community. So my final con number 5, is, I guess, the roads. It's very busy, and there's not fantastic access to the I-15. You are, basically 12 to 15 minutes away from the I-15 exit. There's basically 3 or 4 main ways to get into Saratoga Springs. If you're coming from the south from Provo, you'll probably be getting off on Pioneer Crossing at the I-15 off-ramp and take that road. That'll bring you all the way out to Saratoga Springs. You can also get off at the Lehigh Main Street exit, which is, just a half-mile past the Pioneer Crossing. And you can take that Lehigh Main Street all the way out to Saratoga Springs, but that's also a very, very busy road. And most of it's just, one-lane traffic each direction. So it's just a much slower route and usually very busy. They do now have also the 2100 North off-ramp in I-15 that takes you out to Saratoga Springs, and I believe that's divided. Last time I was on, it's divided and it's 4 lanes. So that actually gets you out there pretty darn quickly. The main north-south route is Redwood Road, and then there is no I-15 connection to Redwood Road in Utah County. There is once you get up into Salt Lake County, but that's not a practical way to get to Saratoga Springs. So that's my con number 5. It's just the fact that it's a little more difficult to get out to Saratoga Springs. You don't have like a belt route for the interstate or anything like that to get you out there. I'm sure that kind of stuff's probably in the planning phases now, but I haven't heard of anything. So just know you have 3 main routes to get you out to Saratoga Springs from the I-15. Okay, so I promised you a couple bonus pros if you listen to the video to the end. I'm actually going to add at least 2 bonus pros. First one is Talon's golf course. This is a beautiful golf course. I've golfed it a few times on some golf tournaments that I've been on, and it's just a beautiful setting right up next to Utah Lake. It has incredible views looking out over the Utah Lake and Utah Valley and back towards the east towards the Wasatch Front and all the beautiful mountains there. The only thing that I don't love is it does wind its way through neighborhoods, and maybe I don't love that just because I'm not a great golfer and I always worry about hitting houses, but generally it has very wide open greens and fairways, so that's really not a problem. I mean, I didn't hit anything when I golfed it. I just worry about it, but it is a beautiful golf course. So that is a extra pro or bonus pro number 1. So bonus pro number 2 is the fact that they're building a brand new Saratoga Springs Temple for the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. It's in the construction phase. It looks to me like they're getting very close to being finished with that. So that's definitely a big bonus for members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints and those that are relocating here, is you will have a temple right in Saratoga Springs. The next closest one, probably the one that people in that area would have had to have attended, would have been the American Fork Temple or maybe the Jordan River Temple. So that's a huge benefit to members of the church that live in that area, that they'll be able to attend the temple right there in their own town, and I'm sure that'll cover all the people of probably Lehigh and Eagle Mountain as well. And for those who aren't members of the church, it's also a benefit and bonus because temples have proven to keep up property values, especially right around the temple, because they keep the temple looking really nice and really beautiful, and they want to keep just the whole area looking nice. So it's a benefit to everyone that lives around it. Well, I want to thank you for watching this video about the pros and cons of living in Saratoga Springs, Utah. Again, my name is Scott Walters, Best USA Realty. I'm shooting weekly videos about what it's like living in Provo, Utah, and the Utah Valley area, and all the surrounding cities. Today it's been Saratoga Springs. If you have any questions at all about Saratoga Springs, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, Scott Walters, Best USA Realty. I'll make sure that my phone number and contact information is on the screen or in the description. And if you're finding these videos helpful in your search to live in the Utah Valley area, then don't hesitate to reach out to me. Give me a phone call, give me a text, email me. We can set up a Zoom call, and I can get whatever other information you'd like to know about what it's like living in Saratoga Springs. And so with that, we'll catch you on the next video.